Good morning, everyone. It's another beautiful day here in Vegas now that the weather is cooling down. It's about 3:30 in the morning. I'm definitely a morning person. I have a trip planned for the day, so I had to get up early anyways. I ended up just getting up a little bit earlier than I was planning on it, so I might as well get some work done. The car's for the most part running since the last video of me taking it for a drive. I've gone out a second time with it. This time overdrive didn't work. That turned out to be a blown fuse as well, just like last time when I got stranded. The ignition fuse popped. I was kind of guessing on what fuses to put in. I couldn't find my paperwork for my, well actually I never really had much paperwork for the overdrive solenoid, so I just kind of guessed, and I guessed wrong. I only put a 5 amp fuse in there. I thought that was a little small in retrospect, and it popped out on the second drive, so no big deal. I put in a new fuse, everything works fine. The other issue is that I tried using the auto tune feature on Megasquirt, just because this combination is slightly different than my last one as far as the plumbing and stuff, and that turned out to be horrible. It started pulling tons of fuel out, and it basically started lean surging. I had a ton of trouble getting it back in the garage. I have a kind of a steep driveway, so when it wants to die, the second you put it into gear, you're kind of in trouble because I can't push it up the driveway. But I was able to finally get it back in here, and I came to the realization that the reason it was pulling so much fuel when it was auto tuning is that because the old combination, the O2 sensor was right next to the end of the exhaust, so I think at low RPMs it was getting a lot of like backwash, interference, however you want to call it. Atmospheric air was getting pulled into the exhaust system, telling Megasquirt it was running leaner than it really was, so it was adding fuel to compensate, and that extra fuel was actually allowing the car to run well. Now with the O2 sensor no longer getting that false lean condition, when it started to auto tune, it began pulling tons of fuel, and since my tune was too lean, naturally the engine went lean, and therefore it started to lean surge. Had trouble running. I've changed the tune, completely rewritten it. Haven't had a chance to drive it yet because my new Viking springs came in. I didn't film it. It took a whole 5 minutes to put them in. It wasn't that. The nice thing about having a race car is that the nose comes right off in seconds, and it was really, I didn't even take the tires off of it to put the new springs in. I mean, that's how easy this install was. So as you can see, the car is still up in the air. I knew that I wanted to do some exhaust work, so I didn't bother to put the car back down on the ground, but those springs are 14 inches long, 150-pound springs. I went with a pretty light spring to help me with weight transfer, as well as the fact that everything in the front half of the car has been cut out. There's no shock towers, there's no sheet metal of any kind, tubular K-member, stuff like that, tons of weight loss. Then on top of that, the entire car is gutted anyways, so the car weighs a lot less than a stock car, so I went with the lightest spring I could. Anyways, today the agenda is to finish up the exhaust. Hopefully it's not too dark in there, but exhaust system, it drones terrible. I mentioned that in the last video of me driving it. I hate it. It's got to be changed. So I ordered some piping. Here's some of it. Nothing special. I think this bend was like 11 bucks, and then I have some stuff left over from when I originally bought all the exhaust stuff, and the goal is basically to bring this over here, bring the exhaust system so it's coming out here. I'm not doing bull horns, but I want the exhaust to come right to the edge of the body, because on the last car, you keep in mind there's the same engine, same 3.5 inch piping, it's just longer. But in the last car, my exhaust stuck out right here above the tire, and when I was inside the car, if I rolled the windows all the way up, it actually was dead silent on the inside of the car. It sounded like it was stock. Same combination, yet it sounded drastically different. What's the difference? Well, the exhaust came through the fender. There was no resonation, there's no drone, none of that. So I'm hoping that it's going to work out the same way, that if I bring the exhaust to the edge of the body, I will no longer have to hear any more drone. So that's what I'm going to start working on today. So first thing I'm going to do is basically cut this 90-degree bend in half. It's the only bend I have. I got a little bit of a scrap piece down in the bin. But I only ordered one because both exhaust pipes already angle back at about a 45-degree angle. So I'm just going to cut this in half. That'll give me a straight shot right outside the fender. I don't want it to come back at an angle. I feel like that's kind of an old school look. I would rather it come straight out at a 90-degree angle, so that's what I'm shooting. The blade on my saw is just about shot, so I don't think it's going to get all the way through. So I might have to make a couple of cuts at this thing. A little off, but that's not bad. Doesn't have to be perfect. So let me go find my angle grinder and then I'll cut it the rest of the way. Alright, mock-up time. I cut a little piece of 3.5-inch pipe. It'll get welded. Whoops. Get welded on here, but right now we're just doing a test fit. Gonna hold it in place. And that looks like it'll work. I'll probably put an angled cut back here or just grind it down a little bit so that it stays up high. But basically that's how it's gonna look. I think that'll work. Might have to do an angled cut to pull it back, something like that. So up and back a little bit, but I wish I could step back and take a look at see what it looks like from a distance, but I'm sure that's good. It's ending right at the body line. Shouldn't have any more drone. So let me go ahead and pull out the welder and I can start putting stuff together. Alright, I've got the pipe where I want it or pretty close to it. So I'm just going to hold it in place, tack it in. There is going to be a small gap that I'm going to have to fill, but that's the nice thing about MIG welders is that they fill gaps pretty easily. You don't have to be quite as precise as you do with the TIG welder. So I'm going to line it up and then finally burn it in. Let's see how this looks. Oops. Not super excited with where that came out. Break that off. Alright, rotate it a little bit and we'll try again. I meant to grind that weld off. Alright, had to move the camera, like I said, to be able to get my hands in there, but this is what it's going to look like. Obviously it looks kind of weird because the car looks like it's going off-roading, but once it's on the ground you won't see much of that piping. It'll be hidden behind the tire. The tire can still turn lock to lock without any issues. I pretty much tried to line up the edge of the exhaust with where this fender would come down if it went all the way, and then obviously I wanted a little bit of a gap, which is good because I'm missing the frame up here by about 1/4 inch, so that came out perfect. More than likely I'm going to have to buy more piping for the other side. So let me go ahead and get this side welded up so at least you can see the final product all bolted back in. And then the other side I'm going to take some measurements, but I'm almost certain I don't have enough piping to do that side. So if that's the case, then I will order more. But one way or another, I was only going to show you one side of the exhaust being done anyways because they're both exactly the same. So use your imagination for the other side. Alright, everything's mocked up, tacked into place. One of the two joints that I created in the process of extending this pipe out is already fully welded. Now I just have, whoop, I'm gonna adjust the camera there. I just have the one left, so I'm gonna get that done and then we can bolt this back in. You're definitely not going to see any of my welds on any show cars, but it's airtight and that's all that matters. Alright guys, a little lapse in video coverage there because this video took about a week and a half to film. Not that the work was that hard, it's just I went on a vacation in the middle of the project, and then when I came home, first thing I did is I ran out in the garage, worked on it for a couple minutes, which I think is actually the clip that you just saw right before this one. Quickly was told by my wife, we just got home, helped me put everything away, etc., etc. So I was pulled back out of the garage, and when I jumped back into it this morning, which is the first chance I got since then to touch the car, it was pretty much just bolting stuff back on that I'd already fully welded. So I didn't really film anything today, but nothing today really exciting happened. I adjusted the coilovers, which are new. I think I mentioned that I was getting new coilovers. Put those in. Well, it's just a spring. I didn't replace the entire coilover. The strut itself up front does need to be replaced. One of them's for sure worn out, and they're not adjustable anyway, so I would like to put some adjustables in there. But that's later on. For now, they're fine. So this is what it's going to look like. I'm pretty happy with it. It's really just a slight extension to the existing downpipe, so I didn't have to rework anything. For those of you looking at it thinking, man, that's really low to the ground, the transmission pan is pretty much right at the same level because it's a +2 quart transmission pan, so it hangs down pretty low. The other side is done. Kind of hard to see because the car's in the garage. You can't see it at all. There you go, close enough. This side hangs down about 1/4 of an inch further than this side, the driver's side, which I know I shouldn't stress out about that, but it's kind of bugging me, so I might fiddle with it, see if I can adjust it, but more than likely 1/4 of an inch. My OCD shouldn't bother me too much on that one. So I'm gonna ignore it for now and just be happy with it. So I think it looks good. I said from day one, I'm not cutting any holes in the fiberglass front end. I still am adamant I'm not gonna do that, which is why the exhaust came out as low as it did. I mean, I could have easily run the exhaust real short, had it come out right here, but I would have had to cut a hole, which I did not want to do. I mean, obviously I could have had it come out anywhere in this location if I really wanted to. Again, did not want to cut holes in it. And I still am not cutting holes in the front of it. So I really don't want, I want that clean look. So that's what we're going for. I'm happy with it so far. I was worried the car would overheat with no airflow to the radiator. But the last time I drove it, it was like 92, 93 degrees outside, which is the absolute hottest I'm ever going to drive this car with no air conditioning. I don't want to. It's that simple. I just don't want to. So with it being over 90 degrees outside, the radiator with no airflow did just fine. The fan did its job. Fan kicked on at 194, which is what it's set to come on, and it immediately I could watch on my my laptop the temperature coming right back down. It dropped back down to 188. Which I believe is where it kicks off, but I made it back home at that point when I was actually paying attention to it. So it dropped down from 194 to 188 real quick. So what more could you ask for? With no airflow, car wasn't really moving, and everything just worked. So I'm happy about that, and I see no reason to punch any holes in the front of that thing. So anyways, hope you like this exhaust system. This camera doesn't pick up sound quality very well, so I'm not going to take it for a test drive so you can do a comparison. Because in the last driving video, where I was complaining of terrible drone, You couldn't hear the drone on camera anyways. It actually sounded pretty quiet in that video, and it is not, or it was not. So I know that I can film a video, but it's not going to show you guys anything, so I'm not going to bother. Plus, it's still only about 7 a.m. I'm sure there's people in my neighborhood, surrounding neighborhoods that are sleeping, so I'm not going to even start the car up. So that's pretty much it for this project. The next thing I want to do is work on these doors. As I've shown, you got to basically lift it up. For anybody who knows Fox bodies, you can hear it bouncing around. Those hinge pins are shot. There goes my jack. This pin right here, and then the one down there. So essentially cut those out, replace the pin, new bushings. I have the part already in my desk in the house. Excuse me. So that should be relatively easy. The only downside is I'm gonna have to drag my wife into that probably, because they recommend not doing it by yourself because of the weight of the door. And then I also have new locks. I can't lock the car. Well, I can now because the locking solenoid had seized up. I removed it, so now I can actually push on this to lock and unlock the doors. The only problem is if I lock the car and get out and shut the doors, I can't get back in because I don't have a key. So I have new the locking cylinders. As far as I know, you just pull this out and then you disconnect it on the inside and this just falls out. Those were inexpensive, so that and fixing the door hinges will be the next thing on my to-do list. So we're getting there. I did want to go to the track. This was it like 2 weeks from now, and due to lack of funds and timing, I just can't make it. I need 2 new tires in the back, preferably 4 new tires, because those front runners have really bad dry rot and they're not holding air real well. So I mean, I could technically fill them with air, drive to the track, and still have air by the time I come home, but that's only if I absolutely have to. At the very least, the rear tires have to be replaced. They're hard, dry, bald. I've said it before. They've got nothing left in them, so there's no point trying to race on a tire like this. They're really just for cruising down the street and helping me hammer out some of my daily driver aspects of this car. It's not going to be a daily driver, but I want it to be capable of it. So that's all they're good for, rolling around, no racing. So those will have to get replaced. And after mounting, balancing, shipping, tax, it's probably going to be $500 for a pair. So I don't have $500 laying around. It's going to have to wait. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for the next one.